Digimon World Next Order is the latest successor to one of my favorite games of all time, Digimon World. A direct sequel, you could say. Next Order has mostly kept the base formula. Small changes and additions, however, have mutated it in interesting ways. Due to these changes, the reasons why I enjoy Next Order and the original Digimon World are surprisingly different. I was a bit worried that trying to modernize the game would take away the charm the original had. I don't think, however, that my biggest problems with it come from some kind of lack of jank. There will be spoilers for both the original and Next Order. It's assumed you have played or know a decent amount about these games. I will be also making some comparisons to the Japan-only redigitize, because some design choices seem to be leftovers from it. As is tradition, we are transported to the digital world. The world is facing a crisis, and this time with our two partners, we're going to save it. I won't get much into the story. I think it's serviceable for this type of game. This is Floatia, basically File City from the previous game. It will experience some big changes as we progress. When hitting the new gym, you might notice training feels pretty good. It's quite addicting training to get a new evolution for your Digimon. What makes it so addicting is how easily you can train if you want to. There's a toilet inside the gym. You can easily get food nearby to feed your Digimon. You can rest inside the gym. In the original, running around from training to get food, toilet or rest took a very noticeable amount of time. It was also the case in Redigitized. There's no more running around between different equipments. In Digimon World you were probably just focusing on one equipment, so you weren't running around between them constantly, but having one place for all training is handy. In Next Order, the charm of the different equipment is gone, but this is a trade-off I'm okay with. As a side note though, your Digimon can get so big you don't immediately see their needs. The minigame you do each time training is fairly fun. It's easy enough to not become frustrating, but keeps you a bit more engaged. Training overall is more frictionless, and I don't think training was ever a very fun thing in previous games. Training is still a big part of the game, and it still takes lengthy time to go from egg to mega. In Next Order, spending several hours training happened quite easily. What you are usually training for are of course the evolutions. There is a huge amount of possible evolutions. Like in previous games, the evolutions are based on meeting certain conditions like stat requirements. The most noticeable change is that now you can gain information on what the requirements are. This you can trigger from battles or after training at the gym. You won't always know exactly what you need to train, since you will gain information on all possible evolutions, not just the one you are aiming for. It might be too late when you unlock all the information. Nonetheless, getting evolutions from stages champion and up is easier. A big part of the original game was the mystery of not knowing what Digimon you're going to get. This made the moment you got an evolution extremely exciting, especially for the ultimates. In Next Order, this is gone for the most part. You might not know exactly what Digimon you're getting when an evolution triggers, but you probably have a good idea. Having the mystery aspect removed is an obvious loss, but the requirement unlocking system plus the more enjoyable training makes for an addicting experience. In the original, it really could feel like you struck gold when you got an evolution, but on the other hand, you could be wasting hours of your time if you were attempting to get an ultimate Digimon without a guide. Even champion Digimon could feel hard to get. I'm sure every player of the original are familiar with Numemon. Even with very good combat stats, you could get one because of how specific the other requirements were. Next Order is overall a more enjoyable and safe approach. I do still wish there could be a game that kept the mystery aspect without making it overly grindy or unpleasant. Of course, what you are doing all this training and evolutions for is that you can explore outside the city. If you've seen my previous Digimon World video, you'll know I think exploration is great in the original game. In Next Order, on the other hand, I think it's the biggest weakness. Exploration is composed of several parts we can discuss. First of all, let's talk about the areas. The areas have some of the more basic ones like plains and deserts. They do have the classic Digimon look. There are some interestingly themed locations like the Bony Resort. Overall, the variety is decent. Graphically, I wouldn't say the game looks bad. It looks quite pretty. However, I would say the areas often do look a bit simple. Though visually upgraded for the console and PC ports, the game is still limited by its Vita origins. It's not only about that, however. Even on the PSP, Redigitize did manage to look interesting. Maybe Next Order suffers from going for a fairly realistic look. Whatever the case, it feels there's a lot less going on in the environments. What I do see missing in area variety is variety within the larger areas and a lack of transitional areas. In the original Digimon World, for example, in the first forest area, you can find this beach. It doesn't really have anything to do with the forest theme of the larger area it's in, but does look very nice. There's also places like the swamp between Your Savannah and Misty Trees. Next Order lacks these type of areas. It feels weird going from the plain straight to a sandstorm in a desert. I understand the digital world is often nonsensical. However, I think the original's approach made it feel more like an actual place. This time you are equipped with a map. The map gives you very exact information. This was already introduced in Redigitize, but in that game you had to find the data in that area for that area. Sort of how maps work in Elden Ring. In general, I liked Digimon World's system of no map and environmental waypoints more. I can see, however, how the new way of having story events would warrant showing where they happen. You can basically still play without using the map, which tells it's not that intrusive. Like before, recruitments are the real objective of exploration. You can find Digimon out in the wild that ask you to do something for them. This can range from giving an item to fighting them. Afterwards they'll join the city. On the surface there's nothing too different from the original. What does change the dynamic is how obvious the recruitable Digimon are. In Next Order, the recruitable Digimon are usually standing around with an exclamation mark above their heads. This makes every encounter a bit predictable. Back in the original, recruitable Digimon had no clear indication. Sure, they were often spottable from their behavior, but that was something you learned over time. They blended more into the environment. Having no clear indication on what's a normal enemy and what's a special character makes me more immersed. Redigitize introduced indicating clearly the Digimon you can talk to, but I think it worked better in that game's more maze-like environments. Speaking on Digimon recruitments, they are not super different from the past. I feel they are getting stale in this one though. Many are fetch quests, which I'm not a big fan of, or the simple talk and fight encounters. This does become a problem considering there are, I believe, more than double the recruitable Digimon compared to the original. To be fair, in Digimon World, of course, everything was new. Things like giving Kunemon food only for it to fight you was subversive. Things like Palmon blending in with the flowers probably can't be done anymore. I don't think it's only about the original being the first one to do it though. Sure, it's gonna be harder now, but Digimon World had, in my opinion, more consistently interesting recruitments. With also having no exclamation mark, they could get away with more simple stuff because simply finding the Digimon was an interesting challenge. These criticisms on their own wouldn't be a big deal. Together, they do bring the exploration down a lot. However, biggest of them I've yet to mention, which is enemy balancing. Next Order has a huge progression of how strong your Digimon can become. This also means a huge range of strength for enemies. This is not great for exploration the way it is implemented. Oftentimes you can surprisingly run into Digimon that you just don't have any chance against. They did add level numbers to Digimon. These numbers don't tell the enemy strength that easily though, nor do they make the suddenly strong enemies feel less artificially placed. It just doesn't feel right that next to the first zone you can find a rookie Digimon that can wreck your first champion Digimon. My Mamemon and Megatramon had to fight for their lives to beat a level 6 Bertramon in one of the earlier areas. You might also make the mistake of fighting the level 3 Red Vegemon in the first area early. Those guys hit like trucks for what feels like no other reason than blocking progression. Digimon World didn't have visible enemy levels. There was never really a need to have them. The progression of enemy strength was always smooth. For example, in Gear Savannah, which is not exactly a starter area, you could pretty much be certain your champion level Digimon could beat the champion level enemies. This might not happen in late game areas, but at that point you could get a feel for how strong the enemies are going to be. In Next Order, it very much felt like guessing is a Digimon's attack gonna deal 10 or 500 damage. This makes the world less explorable and more artificial feeling. In Next Order, it's also harder to avoid enemies, which makes exploring areas you're not ready for hard. In Digimon World, you could avoid most battles and be sure a weak Digimon could handle a battle or two if you had healing items. Next Order Digimon are more of a stat check for whether or not you can explore an area. How exactly are some rook level Digimon 50 times stronger than others? Sure, the original didn't always make perfect sense, however it did have a nice consistency. The game has an increased amount of items you'll be interacting with. You're no longer dealing with just basic meats, healing items and training items. Different kinds of foods, like nuts and fruits, are more common. These offer more ways to interact with the stats like discipline. Back in the city Floatia is where the Digimon you've recruited gather and offer you services. For example, services like the item bank, store and transport are back. I very much like how the city starts out. Gives you that comfy feeling like File City did in the original. This doesn't last very long. At one point the city gets a sudden upgrade. It turns from a small village into a massive city. You still have to gather the Digimon for the services yourself, of course, but the change is huge in visuals and, well, size. The problem with it is that it doesn't really feel like a reward for your work, it just kinda happens. I do like the big city visually. Unlike other areas, the city has a fixed camera perspective. It's very reminiscent of the original. This makes navigating the city easy, which is nice when you're trying to save as much time as possible. You can also appreciate the callback to File City. But this perspective has a drawback. This being the only area where the camera is fixed does make it somehow less of a real place. You're not immersed in the streets of the city the same way you are in other places. You don't get to turn around a corner to see a new building or a Digimon. In Redigitize, you can feel how it would be like to have a free camera. It's crazy how much more you feel like actually being there. In next order, you can actually upgrade the existing services. Upgrades happen with resources you find outside the city. This does make you just kinda gather everything you see. These upgrades, for example, add to the amount of items you can buy or make services cheaper. The field is an important one to upgrade since it adds more fields you can grow foods on. You will be able to grow food for hunger and for bettering training results at the same time. Another important one to upgrade is the training hall. Another addition this game has is upgrading the training equipment with money. The level of the building determines how much you can upgrade them. The Digivolution Dojo also helps you even more with evolutions. Upgrading the buildings and training machines allows for more sense of progression throughout the game. Your Digimon resetting is less of a hard reset overall. Another addition to tackle the same issue is tamer skills. You gain experience and through it points to buy skills that can help you in a variety of ways. Many skills focus on making it easier to train and evolve Digimon. These things make the cyclical nature of the game less frustrating. There was a lot of grinding in the original toward the end game, since you needed stronger and stronger Digimon, but the ways of making training easier were very few. A few more things I want to talk about. First, music. It's pretty good. The songs fit the themes of the areas. We also get very nice new versions of the File City themes. They don't do anything super innovative with the audio, but what's there works. In combat, you now have a bit more control right off the bat. You also have another ability apart from the selectable ones and the special move. Overall, combat hasn't really changed, nor was I expecting it to. In my first video, I talk about how well the Digimon were given character. That is also very much part of this game too. Not that every Digimon is very unique in the way they act, however, every Digimon is animated in a very lively way. One of the best things the game has accomplished, I think, is the running animations and how Digimon follow the player. It looks especially good for rookie Digimon. The way they interact with each other and the player character is so fun to watch, and I haven't seen another game do something like it. Thank you for watching.